Hey guys, Mario here, and in this video and several series of videos, depending on how long this actually takes, I will be teaching you the basics of playing D&D, because I know a lot of you have been asking me about this, and I want to just give it all here to make sure everything's clear. So with that being said, let's begin. So there's a lot that you can do with D&D. There's so many books that you can dive into to learn all the rules, stories, lore, alternate things, changing stuff up. But at its core, D&D is just a fantasy role-playing adventure where you play a character and you go through a story. So it's like an interactive books. So it's like that you jump into the world of Harry Potter and you're one of the wizards of Gryffindor fighting alongside Harry Potter in the Battle of Hogwarts, or you're with Aragorn fighting. I don't know Lord of the Rings too well, but you're playing through your own story. So the stats of D&D are strength, which is fuerza, dexterity, destreza, constitution, constitución, intelli- intelligence, inteligente, wisdom, sabiduría, and charisma. These terms are mostly the same or that you've learned before, so they shouldn't be too hard for you to memorize these 6 words. So a good way to know what these stats do in the game and knowing what you're good at and what you're bad at by just looking at your stats is strength is being able to crush a tomato in your hands using your raw athletic ability to just crush a tomato. Dexterity is being able to dodge a tomato in a food fight after Maestra got mad at you for not reading the book. Constitution is being able to bite in that tomato that wasn't quite ripe, but you know you're not going to get sick with. Intelligence is knowing that tomatoes are fruit. That's just book knowledge. That's science. But wisdom is knowing not to put a tomato in a fruit salad, so more common sense kind of things. And then charisma is being able to sell a tomato based fruit salad. Charisma is probably the hardest one to understand. So I'll elaborate on that one a little more, as charisma is just kind of being a good people person. Like you're good at talking to people, you're also good at lying to people, performing to people, and looking intimidating. Your charisma is that that is what affects it. So a terrible way, but also a good way to kind of visualize charisma is politicians are great at, like, they have great charisma. When they talk, you listen. So that's just kind of how to visualize it. Because out of all of these, it's probably the hardest one to understand. So these stats, while you might see you only have a 13 in strength or all that, it's not your personality. Just because you're not the strongest person doesn't mean you're going to not try to be a strong person wielding that great sword and swinging it around at the monsters. Just because you're not the smartest person doesn't mean you're going to not try crack open a book and try to figure out this monster's weakness in the middle of a fight. But all this math that would go into the character sheets, which takes quite a bit, I've just done all this for you, as those rules can take a while to explain. And for the purposes of what we're doing it in our Spanish class, I just found it a lot easier just to make it there for you. So D&D, playing it is broken down into 3 decisive categories: describing, deciding, and rolling. So I describe a situation that's happening. You walk into a graveyard, the mist flowing off from the evening fog rolling in. And as you walk through this graveyard, you hear the rustling of leaves suddenly cease. A glowing figure rises out from one of the graves and looks at you with sadness in her eyes. What do you do? So playing in this, I I wave and I ask, "What is she doing here?" And if needed, you'll roll. So specifically, like, "Oh, I want to diplomatize with her." All right, roll me a just roll me persuasion. We'll see how that goes and see how per- persuasive you are with that. Not every action needs a roll, but many of them do. So, and once that roll is done, I describe the effects of your actions. So after talking with this person, she sits down on the grave and becomes solid as you see her weeping. Well, something has changed, and it keeps going on and keeps stacking and stacking just like that. So what to roll in a lot of these circumstances is a 20-sided die, which is the standard dice of Dungeons and Dragons. So you've probably seen images of it. It's the one that has the most sides in every given kit. So you use it for your attack rolls, for like swinging a sword, for skill checks, for seeing how charismatic you are with your persuasion, or how athletic you are with an athletics check. And it's also used for saving throws. These are saving throws are usually used to resist effects, like a fireball being thrown at the party. Well, you don't have time to dodge the entire thing. You roll your saving throw to see how much of it you dodge and, well, see if you make it or fail. All the other rolls, like for example, damage is not used a d20, it's using a certain dice based on your weapon, which is all listed on your character sheet. If you don't know what to roll, feel free to ask. This is all new to most of you. So a few questions here and there, nothing to be ashamed of. So an example of this is Maestra. I attack the orc with my spear. Alrighty, roll to hit. I rolled a 13, and I have a +2 to hit, so 15. You hit, roll damage. 1d6 is my damage. I rolled a 6, so 6 damage. Once you get more comfortable with the stuff, you can do the math in your head. So once you see that 13 and you know your +2, you can just say 15. And then you roll your dice. Once you know your bonuses, just 6. It gets a lot faster, and once it gets in your head, it'll just come out like that. But if, for a reference sake, just go through in your head, all right, this is what the dice says. This is my bonus to that action. This is my total. So another example of this is Leon. I hide my face from the guard. Roll an Agano check. I rolled a 3, and my bonus is 2, so my total is 5. The guard looks at you with suspicion and says, Leon? So, one of the biggest things and the reason why we roll for stuff is you don't automatically succeed in a lot of these circumstances. The dice is meant to facilitate whether you succeed or fail. So, in this example, Leon didn't hide his face well enough or fast enough, and the guard recognizes him. And now Leon has to react to that either by fighting the guard, trying to convince him of something else, or whatever. It's the theater of the mind. You can decide what you want to do in that given circumstance. There's no right answer. So, saving throws, just to elaborate a little more, each of them have a DC, which just means a difficulty class. This is how difficult that effect is to resist. So, for example, if Violeta uses her poison spray and they are really a hardy person, their their constitution saving throw, they have a higher chance of not taking as much damage from that poison as opposed to a very scrawny looking boy who looks like he hasn't eaten in about 5 days. And the type of save is listed on there as well. So the save type is listed, and that just tells me what I need to roll and what numbers I need to add. And also for you, if I ask you to make a save. And this will be the end of part 1 because this recorder only has a 10-minute limit.